Football looks simple, but if you've ever watched a match and had no idea what was going on, you're definitely not alone. In this video, I'm going to explain everything you need to understand football, from the basic rules to positions, tactics, and how the whole football world fits together, so you can actually enjoy watching it instead of feeling lost. And if you want to go deeper after this, I've put together a beginner pack designed to take you from complete beginner to fully understanding the basics of football in 60 minutes or less. You can check it out in the description. Objective. At its core, football is a very simple game. Two teams, each with 11 players, compete to score more goals than the other over 90 minutes. A goal is scored when the ball completely crosses the line and into the net. While that sounds straightforward, what makes football interesting is everything happening around that objective. Throughout the match, teams are constantly switching between attacking and defending. When a team has the ball, they try to move forward, create space and build chances. When they lose it, they immediately try to win it back and stop the opposition from doing the same. This transition from attack to defense and back again happens constantly and is one of the most important things to watch for. Because there are so many players on the pitch and both teams are well organized, clear chances don't happen as often as you might expect. That's why football matches often end with low scores like 1-0 or 2-1, and sometimes even 0-0. That doesn't mean nothing is happening. Both teams are working hard the entire time to either create or prevent those chances, unless you're Atletico Madrid or Arsenal, in which case you just want to defend and hope for the best. This constant balance between attack and defend is what gives football its tension, because a single goal can completely change the outcome of the game. But to understand how those goals are created and stopped, you first need to understand the rules. The rules. This is where things can start to feel confusing for beginners, but the core rules are actually quite simple once you break them down. The most important rule is that outfield players are not allowed to use their hands or arms to control the ball. Players mainly use their feet, but they can also use other parts of their body like their chest or head. The only player allowed to use their hands is the goalkeeper, and even then only inside a specific area called the penalty area. The penalty area is one of the most important parts of the pitch. Not only does it define whether the goalkeeper can use their hands, but fouls committed inside this area result in a penalty kick, which is a one-on-one shot against the goalkeeper from close range and one of the most highest probability scoring chances to score in football. The game is played within clearly marked lines, and when the ball completely crosses one of these lines, play stops and restarts in a specific way. If the ball goes out along the sides, it results in a throw-in. If it goes out at either end, it's either a goal kick for the defending team or a corner kick for the attacking team, depending on who touched the ball last. Football allows physical contact, but it becomes a foul when a player acts carelessly, recklessly, or uses excessive force. When that happens, the referee stops the game and awards a free kick, or in certain situations, a penalty. Referees also use yellow and red cards. A yellow card is a formal warning, while a red card means the player is sent off and the team must continue with 10 men for the rest of the match. Or if they get another person red carded, it will be 9 men, 8 men, and so on. One of the most important things to understand is that football is mostly continuous. The game flows naturally and play only stops at key moments, which is part of what makes it feel so different from many other sports, because I know in American football, that's literally an ad fest. And those 90 minutes of continuous play have their own structure too, which brings us to match time. Match time. A football match is played over 90 minutes, split into two halves of 45 minutes each, with a short break in between called halftime. However, the clock does not stop every time a play is interrupted. If there are delays due to injuries, substitutions, or time wasting, the referee keeps track of that lost time and adds extra minutes at the end of each half. This is known as added time or stoppage time, and it's why you'll often see the clock go beyond 45 or 90 minutes. In modern football, stoppage time can sometimes be as long as 10 minutes, 15 minutes, depending on how long the stoppage is. In league matches, games can end in a draw if both teams have scored the same number of goals. However, in knockout competitions, a winner must be decided. If the score is level after 90 minutes, the match goes into extra time, which is 2 additional periods of 15 minutes each. If it is still tied after that, it goes to a penalty shootout, where each team takes turns shooting from the spot until one side wins. These moments are often the most intense in football, because the entire match can come down to just a few shots taken under enormous pressure. But of course, those moments involve specific players, each has a specific role, which is what positions are all about. Positions. Every player on the pitch has a role, and these roles are known as positions. Players are generally divided into 4 main groups: the goalkeeper, defenders, midfielders, and attackers. Each group covers a different area of the pitch and has a different responsibility within the team. The goalkeeper stays closest to the goal and focuses on stopping shots and organizing the defense. Defenders protect the area in front of the goal and try to prevent the opposition from creating chances. Midfielders connect the defense and attack, often controlling the tempo of the game, while attackers focus on creating and finishing goal-scoring opportunities. Within each of these groups, there are more specific roles. For example, some defenders play in the centre while others operate on the wider sides of the pitch, which are called the flanks. Some midfielders focus more on defending and breaking up opposition's play, while others are more creative and focused on setting up chances. But as a beginner, the four main groups are all you need to understand to follow what's happening. Although players move constantly during a match, they always have a base position they return to, especially when their team is defending. This balance between movement and structure is what keeps football both organised and dynamic, and how those positions are arranged as a unit is what we call formations. Formations describe how a team is arranged on the pitch, specifically how many defenders, midfielders and attackers they use. They're usually written as numbers, such as 4-3-3 or 4-4-2. For example, a 4-3-3 means 4 defenders, 3 midfielders and 3 attackers. The goalkeeper is never included in the numbers because they always occupy the same position. Formations give a team a structure, but they're not fixed. Players adjust their positions depending on whether their team is attacking or defending, which means the shape can shift significantly through a match. A team that lines up in a 4-3-3 when attacking might look much more like a 4-5-1 when defending because the wide attackers drop back to help. Different formations are used for different approaches. Some are more attacking while others prioritize defensive stability. A manager will usually choose a formation based on their team's strengths and who they're playing against, so you might notice teams setting up differently from game to game. Once you understand formations, you start seeing why the game looks the way it does when you actually watch it. Gameplay. This is where football really starts to make sense when you watch it. At any moment in a match, one team has the ball and the other does not. The team with the ball is attacking, trying to move forward and create chances, while the team without the ball is defending and trying to win it back. Teams can approach this in very different ways. Some prefer to keep possession, passing the ball around patiently and waiting for space to open up, or others focus on quick transitions, winning the ball and immediately attacking at speed before the opposition can get organised. Both approaches can be highly effective, which is part of why football at the top level is so varied and interesting to watch. Defensively, teams try to reduce space, block passing options and stay compact. Some teams defend deep, staying close to their own goal and making it difficult for the opposition to find gaps. Others press high up on the pitch, putting pressure on the ball and trying to force mistakes in dangerous areas. At first, it might look chaotic, but there is always a structure behind what is happening. The more you watch, the more these patterns become clear. One rule that has a huge influence on how teams attack and defend is offside, and it's probably the one that confuses beginners the most. Offside. Offside is one of the most talked about rules in football and it confuses a lot of beginners. But the core idea is actually quite simple once you understand it. A player is offside if they receive the ball while being closer to the opponent's goal than both the ball and the second last defender at the moment the pass is made. In most cases, the second last defender is simply the last outfield player, since the goalkeeper is usually behind everyone else and is considered the last defender. The key detail is that it is judged at the moment the ball is played, not when it is received. So even if a player is onside when the pass is made, they can still be caught offside if they were in an offside position the moment their team passed the ball. In simple terms, attackers cannot position themselves behind the defensive line and wait for the ball to be played to them. They have to time their run carefully so they are on level with or behind the defenders at the right moment. Getting that timing right is one of the more skillful things an attacker can do, and getting it wrong is one of the more frustrating things for fans to watch. This is also one of the areas where VAR comes in. VAR stands for Video Assistant Referee, a system used in many competitions where officials review video footage to check key decisions including offside calls, goals and penalties. You'll often see play stop while a decision is being reviewed, and the referee either sticks with their original call or changes it based on the footage. It's designed to reduce errors, though it's also one of the more debated topics in modern football. Offside and fouls are closely connected because when an attacker is fouled while in an onside position, that's where things get really interesting. Fouls. A foul is called when a player breaks the rules of physical contact, acting carelessly, recklessly, or using excessive force against an opponent. When a foul is committed, the referee stops play and awards a free kick to the opposing team from the spot where the foul occurred. If the foul happens inside the penalty area, it results in a penalty kick instead, which, as we covered earlier, is one of the best chances to score in football. Referees use cards to manage a player behaviour. A yellow card is a caution, a formal warning that a player has done something they shouldn't have. If a player receives 2 yellow cards in the same match, they are automatically shown a red card and sent off. A straight red card can also be given for serious offences, such as a dangerous tackle or violent conduct, without a yellow card first. Playing with 10 men after a red card is a huge disadvantage and can completely change the course of a match. Teams often have to reorganise their entire shape to cover the gap left by the missing player. It's also worth noting that not every physical challenge is a foul. Referees allow a degree of contact. Shoulder-to-shoulder challenges, for example, are generally permitted. The judgment call is what makes refereeing one of the hardest jobs in the sport, and it's another reason why VAR was introduced. Some fouls lead to something even more structured, what's called a set piece. Set pieces. Set pieces are moments where the game restarts in a structured and controlled way, such as corners, free kicks, and penalties. These situations are important because they give the teams the chance to organize before the ball is played. In open play, everything is fast and unpredictable, but during a set piece, players can take up exactly the positions they want, and teams can execute moves they've specifically practiced. Corners are awarded when defending teams puts the ball behind their own goal line, and they're one of the more common ways to create a chance in football. The attacking team delivers the ball into the penalty area, where players try to head or volley it into the net. Free kicks near goal are another major opportunity. Some players are specialists at bending the ball over or around a defensive ball and into the net. Penalties are the most high-pressure set piece of all. One player, one goalkeeper, 12 yards. Despite the apparent simplicity, penalties are deeply psychological. The taker has to decide where to shoot, and the goalkeeper has to guess which way to dive, often before the ball is even struck. Set pieces account for a significant number of goals at all levels of football, which is why teams invest heavily into practice them. Understanding set pieces also help you appreciate that football isn't just about what happens in open play. Structure and preparation matter just as much, and the teams that get to practice these situations together week after week belong to clubs that compete in leagues. A league is the main format through which professional football clubs compete on a regular basis. In a league, a set number of teams all play against each other over the course of a season, which typically runs from August to May. Each team plays every other team twice, once at home and once away. Points are awarded based on results. 3 for a win, 1 for a draw, and none for a loss. At the end of the season, the team with the most points is crowned champion. At the bottom of the table, the teams with the fewest points are often relegated, meaning they drop down to the lower division. Top teams from that lower division are promoted to replace them. This system of promotion and relegation is one of those things that make league football so compelling, because there's something at stake for almost every team, not just those fighting for the title. Some of the most well-known leagues in the world include the Premier League in England, La Liga in Spain, the Bundesliga in Germany, and Serie A in Italy. Each league has its own style, culture, and history, which is part of what makes following football so rich. But leagues aren't the only way teams compete. Tournaments add a completely different kind of pressure. Tournaments are shorter, more intense competitions where teams get eliminated if they lose. Most tournaments follow a knockout format, at least in the later stages. This means that if a team loses, they're out. A single mistake, a missed penalty, or an unlucky moment can end the team's entire tournament. This is what makes tournaments so dramatic and unpredictable compared to leagues. Many tournaments also include a group stage at the start, where teams are placed into small groups and play several matches against each other. The top teams from each group then progress to the knockout rounds. This gives teams a slight margin for error early on, but once the knockouts begin, every match is a final. Some of the most famous tournaments in football include the Champions League for all European teams, and international tournaments like the European Championship and the FIFA World Cup, which we'll come to shortly. The key difference between leagues and tournaments comes down to what's being tested. Leagues reward consistency over a long period, whilst tournaments reward the ability to perform when it matters most. Many fans would argue that winning a tournament is the ultimate test in football, and that brings us to something that sits alongside clubs entirely: international football and the difference between clubs and countries. Clubs versus countries. One thing that confuses a lot of beginners is the difference between club football and international football, because the same player appeared in both, but they're representing completely different things. A club is a professional organization, like Manchester City, Barcelona, or Bayern Munich. Players are contracted to play for their club, and clubs compete in domestic league and cup competitions throughout the season. Clubs can sign players from anywhere in the world, which is why you'll often see a team made up of players from 10, 15, many different nationalities. International football is entirely separate. When a player represents a national team, they're playing for the country they're eligible for, usually through birth, parentage, or nationality. International squads are assembled a few times a year for specific tournaments or qualifying matches, and players join up with their country before returning to their clubs. This creates a unique dynamic in football. You might see two players who are teammates at their club level, but are opponents when they play for their respective national team, or fierce rivals at club level who suddenly have to work together when representing the same country. The biggest international tournament of all is the FIFA World Cup, which is happening soon, next month actually, held every 4 years, where national teams across the globe compete to be crowned world champions. It is widely considered the most watched sporting event on the planet, billions of eyes every single time, Understanding the difference between clubs and countries also help explain one of the most talked about topics in football, transfers. A transfer is when a player moves from one club to another, usually in exchange for a fee. Players are under contract with their club, which means the club has exclusive rights to their services for a set period of time. If another club wants to sign that player, they typically have to pay a transfer fee to the player's current club to release them from that contract. The size of that fee depends on the player's age, quality, and how much time is left on their deal. Transfers can only happen during specific windows, set periods of time, usually in the summer and in January when clubs are permitted to buy and sell players. Outside of these windows, clubs cannot register new signings with a few exceptions. Transfer fees in modern football can be enormous. The most expensive transfers in history have exceeded £100 million. And when you factor in wages and agent fees on top, the total cost of signing a top player can be staggering. This is why a club's financial resources play such a big role in how competitive they can be. Players can also move on free transfer if their contract has expired, or on loan, which is a temporary arrangement where players go to another club for a set period of time before returning to their parent club. Understanding transfers helps you understand how clubs are built and why the squad a club has is a result of years of decisions, all governed by the contracts players sign. Contracts. A contract is the legal agreement between a player and a club that defines the terms of their employment. It covers the basics: how long the player will be at the club, how much they'll be paid, and what their obligations are. A typical professional contract might last anywhere from 1 to 5 years, though the length can vary significantly depending on the player's age and standing. Wages in football can vary enormously. At the top end of the game, elite players at major clubs can earn hundreds of thousands of pounds per week. Further down the football pyramid, in lower leagues, players might earn a modest salary not too different from a regular job, or in some cases, even less. Contracts also include other elements, such as appearance fees, goal bonuses, and release clauses. A release clause is a fixed sum written into the contract that allows another club to sign the player by paying that amount, regardless of whether the current club wants to sell. Beyond players, clubs also have contracts with managers, coaching staff, and sponsors, meaning that contracts are at the heart of how an entire professional game is structured. All of these pieces, the rules, the players, the clubs, the leagues, the tournaments, the transfers, and the contract, are part of one enormous interconnected world. And that is what we'll tie together now. Connections. Football can feel overwhelming at first because there's so much happening at once. But when you zoom out, it all connects in a remarkably logical way. At the foundation, you have the rules. Those rules govern how the game is played, what counts as a goal, what's a foul, what's offside, and how set pieces work. Understanding the rules is what allows you to follow what's happening on the pitch in real time. On the pitch, you have the players in position, organized into formations, working within a tactical system their manager has put in place. The way those players move, whether they're keeping possession or pressing high, defending deep or attacking quickly, is what we call gameplay. Those players belong to clubs, which compete in leagues over a course of a season and in tournaments where the stakes are higher and the margin for error is smaller. The clubs are built through transfers, which are governed by contract, and the whole system runs on a combination of sporting ambition and significant financial investment. Sitting alongside all of this is international football, where the same players set aside their club rivalries to represent their countries, creating some of the most emotionally charged moments the sport has to offer. Threading through all of this are the officials, the referees, their assistants, and systems like VAR, making sure all the rules are fairly applied, even in the most high-pressure scenarios. Once you understand how all of these pieces fit together, football stops feeling like something happening around you and starts feeling like something you're genuinely part of. You watch a match differently, appreciate decisions you might have previously ignored, and understand why moments that seem small can actually mean everything. If you want to get there faster, the beginner pack in the description is designed to take you from complete beginner to fully understanding the football in 60 minutes or less. Everything in this video is mentioned there. You can read that at your own pace. Check it out below, and thank you guys for watching.